Welcome all to the course of Data Communication Networking B7th semester Electronics and Communication. We are discussing a physical layer in which a topic is a telephone and the cable networks data transmission. Up to now we have seen the signaling system in the last session. We are going to conduct this session to continue the same. Dial-up modems. Traditionally, a telephone lines carry frequencies between the 300 to 3300 Hz, giving them a bandwidth of 3000 Hz. All this range is used for the transmitting voice, where a great deal of interference and the distortion can be accepted without loss of intelligibility. Here, the data signals require a higher degree of accuracy to ensure the integrity. For safety's sake, therefore, the edges of this range are not used for the data communication. In general, we can say that a signal bandwidth must be smaller than that the cable bandwidth. The effective bandwidth is a telephone line being used for the data transmission is 2400 Hz, covering the range of 600 to 3000 Hz. Note that today some telephone lines are capable of handling the greater bandwidth than the traditional lines. However, the modem designs is still based on the traditional capability. In this session, we will see a modem standards. A figure shows a telephone line bandwidth. Over here, a graph shows this bandwidth is used for the voice and this bandwidth is used for the data communication. Modem. The term modem is the composite word that refers to the two functional entities that make up a device, a signal modulator and the signal demodulator. So, a modulator creates some bandpass analog signal from the binary data and the demodulator recovers the binary data from the modulated signal. So, we can say that the modem stands for the modulator or demodulator. Our figure shows the relationship of modems to communication link. A computer to the left sends the digital signal to the modulator portion of the modem. The data rate is analog signal of a telephone network. The modem on the right receives the analog signal, demodulates it through the demodulator, delivers the data to the computer to the right. Fine? Everything is shown over here. It is a modem, it is our telecommunication network, it is another modem, it is a modulator, it is a demodulator for this case. The communication can be bidirectional, which means that the computer on the right can simultaneously send the data to the computer to the left using the same modulator or demodulator, or we can say that modem. So, both full duplex communication is there. Modem standards. Today, many of the most popular modem available on the based on the V series standard published by the ITUT. First, V.32 and V.32 bis, as you can see over here. This figure is for V.32 and this is figure for a V.32 BIS. The V.32 modem use the combined modulation and encoding techniques controlled a trailis coded modulation. A trailis is essentially QAM plus a redundant bit. The data stream is divided into the 4-bit sections. Instead of quad bit, however, the pentabit is transmitted. The value of the extra bit is calculated from the values of the data bits. The extra bit is used for the error detection. V.32 calls 32 QAM with baud rate of 2400 because only 4 bits of each pentabit represent the data. The resulting data rate is 4 into 2400 is equal to 9600 bps. The constellation diagram and the bandwidth shown in this figure. Right? So, it is a constellation diagram for the V.32, it is a bandwidth. V.32 BIS or BIS modem was the first to the ITU standard to support a 14,400 bps transmission. The V.32 BIS used the 128 QAM transmission in which the 7 bits are baud with 1 bit error checked at the rate of 2400 baud. An additional enhancement provided by the V.32 BIS is the inclusion of automatic fullback and fall forward feature that enables the modem to adjust its speed upward or downward depending on the quality of the line of sight or signal. The constellation diagram and the bandwidth shown over here. So it is a constellation diagram, it is a bandwidth of V.32 BIS. V.34 BIS. A V.34 BIS modem provides the bitrate of 28,800 with a 960 point constellation at the bitrate of 33,600 bps with a 1664 point constellation. Another V.90. A traditional modems that have data limited of 33.6 kbps determined by the Shannon capacity. However, the V.90 modems with a bitrate of 56,000 bps are available that called as a 56K modems, just like this 56K modems. These modems may use only if one party is using the digital signal, such as the internet provider. They are symmetric in the downwarding rate flow of the data in the internet service provider to the PC to the maximum of 56 kbps, while the uploading rate flow of the data from the PC to the internet service provider can be maximum of 33.6 kbps. Do these modems violate the Shannon's capacity principle? No. In the downstream direction, the SNR ratio is higher because the no quantization error is available, as you can see in this figure. Fine. It is uploading, it is a downloading. In uploading, the analog signal must still sample at the switch station. In this direction, the quantization noise is introduced in the signal, which reduces the SNR ratio and limits the rate of 33.6 kbps. However, in the no sampling is downwarding, the signal is not affected by the quantization noise and not subjected to the Shannon capacity limitation. The maximum data rate in this uploading direction is still 33.6 kbps, but the data rate in the downloading direction is now 56 kbps. One may wonder how we arrive at a 56 kbps figure. The telephone companies sample 8,000 times per second with an 8 bits per sample. One of its bits in the each sample is used for the control purpose, which means that each sample is 7 bits, and the rate of therefore is 8,000 into 7 or 56 bps or 56 kbps. So fine. So 56 kbps figure we can achieve. Next is V.92. The standard above V.90 is called as a V.92. These modems can adjust their speed, and if the noise allows, they can upload the data at the rate of 48 kbps. The downloading rate is still 56 kbps. The modem has additional feature. For example, the modem can interrupt the internet connection when there is an incoming call if the line has a call waiting service. Right. So we have completed the standards of our modem. Let's go ahead. DSL, very famous question, digital subscriber line. DSL. Might you have familiar with this term? When you see your modem, a particular DSL is written over there. So digital subscriber line. Let us discuss. After the traditional modems reached their peak data rate, the telephone company developed another technology called as a DSL to provide a high speed access to the internet. Digital subscriber line technology is one of the most promising for the supporting the high-speed digital communication over the existing local loops. Digital subscriber line technology is the set of the technologies each differing in its first letter. ADSL, ADSL Lite, SDSL, SDSL, VDSL. We are going to see each one in detail. The set is often referred to as a XDSL, where X can be replaced by A, V, H or S. First is ADSL. A first technology in the set is asymmetric digital subscriber line. An ADSL like an 50K modem provides a higher speed data rate in the downstream direction and low bit data rate at upstream direction. Means download is high, uploading is low. That is the reason it is called as an asymmetric. Unlike the asymmetric in 50K modem, the designers of the ADSL specifically divide the available bandwidth to the local loop unevenly for the residential customer. The service is not suitable for the business customer who need a larger bandwidth for the both directions. So, an ADSL is an asymmetric communication technology designed for the residential user. It is not suitable for a business user. Because in the business, there is a more upload than our residential users. So, uploading a download speed will be required higher at the business stage. At our residential, downloading is high, uploading is low. So, it is useful for that. Using an existing local loops. One interesting point in ADSL uses an existing loops. But how does ADSL reach the data rate which is never achieved with traditional modems? The answer is that the twisted pair local loop is actually capable of handling bandwidth up to 1.1 MHz, but the filter installed at the end device services of the telephone company where each loop is terminated limits to be the bandwidth of 4 kHz. So, which is useful for voice communication. If the filter is removed, however, then entire 1.1 MHz is available for the data and voice communication. So, an existing local loops can handle bandwidth up to 1.1 MHz. And adaptive technology. Unfortunately, 1.1 MHz is just a theoretical bandwidth of the local loop. Factors such as the distance between the resident and the switching office, the size of the cable and the signaling used, and so on, and affect the bandwidth. The designer of ADSL technology were aware of this problem and used an adaptive technology that tests the connections and condition and the bandwidth availability of the line before settling the data rate. The data rate of ADSL is fixed, not fixed. It changes based on the condition and the type of the local loop cable. Fine. So there is an adaptive technology in which it can vary the data rate. So we can say that an ADSL is an adaptive technology. This system uses the data rate based on the condition of the local loop line. Next is discrete multi-tone technique. The modulation technique that has become standard for the ADSL is called as a discrete multi-tone technique or DMT, which combines QAM and FDM. There is no set way that the bandwidth of the system is divided. Each system can decide its bandwidth division. Typically, an available bandwidth of 1.104 MHz is divided into 256 channels. Each channel uses the bandwidth of 4.312 kHz, which is shown over here. Fine. So one signal is combined with FDM. There are QAM signals with bits 15 bits per baud rate. Fine. Yes, this figure shows the bandwidth that can be divided into the following: voice, a particular node use called as idle, upstream data and control, and downstream data and control. So let us discuss voice. In the channel 0 is reserved for the voice communication. Fine. Idle. The channel 1 to 5 are not used for the provide a gap between the voice and the data communication. Upstream and data and control. Channel 6 to 30. 25 channels are used for the upstream data transfer and control. One channel is not for a control, and 24 channels are for the data transfer. If there are 24 channels each using 4 kHz with an QAM modulation, we have 24 into 4000 into 15 is equal to 1.44 Mbps bandwidth in an upstream direction. However, the data rate is normally below the 500 kbps because some of its carriers are deleted at the frequency where the noise level is large. In other words, some channels may be unused. Downstream data and control. In the channel 31 to 255 are used for the downstream data transfer and control. One channel is control and 22 into other channels are for the data channels. If there are 2 to 4 channels, we have achieved 2 to 4 into 4000 into 15 or 13.4 Mbps. However, the data rate is normally below the 8 Mbps because some of the carriers are deleted at the frequency where the noise level is large. In other words, some channels may be unused. Fine. So over here, a particular diagram shows a frequency in kilohertz. So don't take it as a channel number. It is a frequency. ADSL modem. It is used at the customer side. Fine. ADSL modem, you have seen, if you have an company just like a BSNL, you have an ADSL modem. For that, you must have a particular modem which supports an ADSL technology. A figure shows an ADSL modem illustrated at the customer side. The local loop connects to the splitter which separates the voice and the data. Right? So over here the voice and data is separated. An ADSL modem modulates and demodulates using the DMT and creates a downstream and upstream channels. Note that the splitter needs to be installed at the customer premises, normally by the technician from the telephone company, just like our BSNL. A voice line can be used in existing telephone wiring in the house, but the data line needs to be installed by the professional. All this makes an ADSL line expensive. We will see that there is an alternative technology called as a universal ADSL or ADSL Lite. DSLM. It is used at our telephone company side. Suppose we have taken an example of BSNL. Particular ADSL modem is used at our home, and particular DSLM modem is used at our telephone company. At the telephone company side, the situation is different. The installation of ADSL modem, a device called as a digital subscriber line access multiplexer DSLAM, is installed at the functional similarity with our previous one. In addition, it packetizes the data to be sent to the internet service provider as you can see this figure. Fine. So it just sent to the internet. Next is ADSL Lite. Over here, the installation for the splitters at the border of the premises at the new wiring for the data line can be expensive and impractical. Although, to distinguish the most of the subscriber, a new version of ADSL technology called as an ADSL Lite or a universal ADSL or a splitter-less ADSL is available for this subscriber. This technology allows an ADSL Lite modem to be plugged directly into the telephone jack and connected to the computer. The splitting is done at the telephone company, fine. So there is no extra equipment required at this customer site. Lite uses 256 DMT carriers with an 8-bit modulation. However, some of the carriers may not be available because the error created by the voice signal, so it might be one of them. It can provide a maximum downstream data of 1.5 Mbps and upstream data rate of 512 kbps. So remaining we are discussing SDSL. So first is SDSL. The high bit data rate digital subscriber line is called as an SDSL. It was designed as an alternative of a T1 line, just like a 1.5 Mbps of a T1 line. A T1 line uses an alternative mark inversion AMI encoding, which is very susceptible to the attenuation at high frequency. This limits the length of the T1 line to the 3200 feet or 1 kilometer. For the longer distance, a repeater is necessary, which means that increase the cost. Right? Then SDSL uses 2B1Q encoding, which is less susceptible to the attenuation. A data rate of 1.544 Mbps, sometimes up to 2 Mbps, can be achieved without the repeaters at the distance of 12,000 feet or 3.86 km. SDSL uses 2 twisted pair cable, 1 pair for each direction to achieve the full duplex transmission. Fine. So 1 twisted pair is used. 2 twisted pair use. Next is SDSL. A symmetric digital subscriber line called as an SDSL is 1 twisted pair used in this SDSL model. It provides a full duplex symmetric communication supporting 768 kbps in each direction. An SDSL which provides a symmetric communication can be considered as an alternative to ADSL. So ADSL provides an asymmetric communication with a downstream bit rate much higher than the upstream. Although this feature meets the needs of the most residential subscriber, if not suitable for the business, then send and receive data in the large volume. Fine. So SDSL can replace. Last is VDSL. A very high bitrate digital subscriber line called as an VDSL, an alternative approach that is similar to the ADSL, uses a coaxial fiber optic or twisted pair cable in short distance. The modulating technique is DMT. It provides a range of bits rate of 25 to 55 Mbps. Fine, you can written over there. For the upstream communication at the distance of 3000 to 10,000 feet, the downstream rate is normally 3.2 Mbps. So the table shows the summary of different ADSL technologies which we have discussed up to now. So it is very easy to differentiate between different DSL technology very easily. Next is cable TV network. The cable TV network started as a video service provider, but it has moved to the business of internet access. In this section, we discuss the cable TV networks, and we discuss how this network can be used to provide a high-speed access to the internet. In this section, following topics to be discussed: traditional cable networks and hybrid fiber coaxial network. Traditional cable TV networks. And cable TV started to distribute broadcast video signals to the location with poor or no reception in the late of 1940s. It was called as a community antenna TV or CATV, because an antenna at the top of the tall hill or the building received the signal from the TV station, and they distributed them with a coaxial cable and to the company. Our figure shows a schematic diagram of a traditional cable TV network. Over here, it is a picking antenna. Signal is received from this. It is given to the head end. Then a coaxial cable is there. Amplifier used to amplify a weaker signal. A splitter is used to split the signal to the different area. The cable TV office, called as an head end, receives a video signal from the broadcasting station and feeds the signal to the coaxial cables. The signal becomes weaker and weaker with the distance, so the amplifiers are installed through the network to renew the signal. There could be up to 35 amplifiers between the head end to the subscriber premises. At the other hand, the splitter split the cable, and taps and drop cable make the connection to the subscriber premises. A traditional cable TV system uses a coaxial cable end to end. Due to the attenuation of the signal, the use of the large number of amplifiers, communication in the traditional network was unidirectional, yani one way. Fine. Video signals were transmitted downstream from the head end to the subscriber premises. So, we can say that a communication in the traditional cable TV network is unidirectional. Next is hybrid fiber coaxial network or HFC network. The second generation of cable network called as a hybrid fiber coaxial network. The network uses the combination of fiber optic and coaxial cable. The transmission medium from the cable TV box to the box called as a fiber node. It is optical fiber. From the fiber node through the neighboring into the house, still a coaxial cable. A figure shows a clear direction that particular this is our bidirectional amplifier, and over here this is our fiber optic cable, and over here the black color shows a coaxial cable. So up to fiber node, up to this, just like a local area, there is a fiber optic cable or fiber networks, and near our premises there is a coaxial cable. A regional cable head or RCH normally serves up to 400 to many subscribers. The RSC feed the distribution hubs. Fine. So it is a distribution hub. Each have a 40,000 subscribers. The distribution hub plays an important role in the new infrastructure. Modulation and demodulation can be done through the modem. Modulation and the distribution of the signals are done here. The signals are then fed to the fiber nodes through the fiber optic cable. The fiber node splits the analog signal so that some signals can send to the each coaxial cable. Each coaxial cable serves up to 1000 subscribers. Right? It will serve up to 1000 subscribers. The use of the fiber optic cable reduces the need of the amplifier to down to the 8 or less. In the previous session, there will be above 40. Over here, nearly 8 or less. So it is very beneficial. One reason for moving from this traditional to the hybrid infrastructure is make the cable network bidirectional, means two-way. Over here, the data communication will be in two direction. In the previous case, the direction of the data transmission will be unidirectional, only this. There is no reverse direction is possible. But in this direction, or in this network, there is a bidirectional network which is available in our fiber optic cable. So, we can say that the communication in the HFC cable TV networks can be bidirectional. So, next is cable TV for the data transfer. Cable companies are now competing with the telephone companies for the residential customer who wants a high speed data transfer. DSL technology provides a high data rate connections for the residential subscriber over the local loop. However, DSL uses the existing unshielded twisted pair cable, which is very susceptible to the interferences. This imposes an upper limit of the data rate. Another solution of this is the use of cable TV network. In this section, we will briefly discuss this technology. We discuss bandwidth sharing of our data transfer in cable TV, CM and CMTS, and data transmission schemes. Bandwidth. Even in the HFC system, the last part of the network from the fiber node to the subscriber premises is still coaxial cable, just like this. Right? So it is a coaxial cable. This coaxial cable has a bandwidth that ranges from 5 to 750 megahertz approximately. To provide an internet access, the cable company has divided this bandwidth into the three bands: video, downstream data, and upstream data, as you can see in this figure. Right? Vertical frequency is allocated for the each part. In the downstream video band, it occupies frequency from 54 to 550 megahertz. Since each TV channel occupies 6 megahertz, this can accommodate more than 80 channels. In the downstream data band, the downstream data from the internet to the subscriber premises occupies the upper band from 550 to 750 over here. Our previous one is video band. Over here, a data download, data downstream. So the band is divided into the 6 megahertz channels. Modulation. The downstream data band uses an 64 QAM, possibly 256 QAM modulation technique. So we can say that the downstream data rate modulated using the 64 QAM modulation technique. A data rate varies in 6 bits per word, or in the QAM, 1 bit is used for the forward error correction. This leaves 5 bit data per word. The standard specifies 1 Hz for each word. This means that theoretically, downstream data can be received at 30 Mbps. 5 into 6, 5 bits per hertz into 6 megahertz. We get 3 Mbps. The standard specifies only 25 Mbps. However, since the cable modem is normally connected to the computer through the 10-base-T cable, this limits the data up to 10 Mbps. So we can say that theoretical downstream data rate is 30 Mbps. Upstream data band. Then upstream data band, when a subscriber premises the internet, occupies the lower band, which is from 5 to 42 megahertz, just like this, 5 to 42 megahertz. This band also divided into 6 megahertz channels. The modulation used in this upstream data band, it uses a lower frequency that are more susceptible to the noise and the interferences. For this reason, a QAM technique is not suitable for this band. A better solution is QPSK. So, upstream data modulation using a QPSK modulation technique. A data rate there is 2 bits per word in a QPSK. The standard specifies 1 Hz for each word. This means that theoretically the upstream data can be sent up to 12 Mbps, in which 2 bits per Hz into 6 Mbps, 6 MHz. However, the data rate is usually less than 12 Mbps. So, theoretically upstream data rate is 12 Mbps. Sharing. Both upstream and the downstream bonds are shared by the subscriber. Upstream sharing. The upstream data bandwidth is 37 MHz. Downstreaming. We have similar situation in the downstreaming direction. A downstream band has 33 channels of 6 MHz. A cable provider is probably has more than 33 subscribers, therefore, and each channel must be have a separated of a group of subscribers. Fine. CM and CMTS. To use a cable network for a data transmission, we need two key devices, such as a cable modem CM and cable modem transmission system. A CM, particularly shown in this figure, has an installed on the subscriber premises, and it is similar to our ADSL modem. CMTS. A cable modem transmission system is installed inside a distributed hub by the cable company. It receives the data from the internet and passes through the combiner, which sends them to the subscriber. The CMTS also receives data from the subscriber and passes them to the internet. A figure shows the location of CTMS. Fine. So, we conclude our session. Following question is for you. Write down in your notebook and send back it to me as per the given direction. Thank you, student. See you in the next session.